Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
And it's 8:07. It's our fourth hour. Cassie Smedley, you know what that means. It's Stevie Wonder time to get us fired up.
The best time of the week, Larry.
Right? It really is.
Except for Friday.
Cassie Smedley joining us here this morning on this Thursday. By the way, I got a lot of text messages and tweets about Julie Gunlock. Julie's fine. She's taking a couple of days off. She'll be back Monday. Everybody chill. You know, the second you hear a new voice or the people's routine gets disrupted in some way, it's like, what's happening? What happened? Everything's fine. I mean, as far as I know, everything's fine. Let's get into it here with KT McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, author of the very important book about that first term of Trump called Revolution. KT, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we had quite a scene there on Monday, a remarkable moment. The hostages freed and released. They got to meet with President Trump. President Trump addresses the Knesset. He goes to Egypt with Arab leaders, European leaders. They signed the treaty. Everything's looking great. But now you're starting to see signs already that Hamas is, well, acting like Hamas. So where do you think things stand right now?
Oh, I think there's sort of several moving pieces. One, there's not just one Hamas. There are really two Hamases. Hamas is the negotiators who were in Doha, the guys who were terrorists who now wear suits. Those are probably the guys who said, yes, we agree with the Trump 20-point peace plan. Then there are the guys that are on the streets in Gaza City. And you know, they're not a unified command structure. They're probably gangs of them. And are they going to lay down their weapons? Those are the guys with weapons. Are they going to lay down their weapons?
Right.
Are they going to get amnesty? Maybe not. You know, maybe they just want to be martyrs and fight to the finish. But in a weird way, if Hamas, the guys in the street, gang fighters, if they decide they're going to fight to the end, it's almost like, make my day, guys, because President Trump has given the directive to Israel to just go wipe them out. And remember all the countries in the world, they've signed on, so everybody's agreed, wipe Hamas out.
Is there a third way, if I may? Is there a possibility of maybe a respected military leader or a military leader from a respected nation who can sort of oversee this disarmament process and sort of force the issue? So Israel, because if Israel tries to do that, we're right back where we started.
Where we started.
Is there someone else who or some other entity that could actually oversee this that we would trust that could actually effectively get this done?
Yeah, and I think the groups that you're talking about, or maybe it's not just one country, one leader, but a collection of leaders, although they're not yet organized in the sense of a military unit. But if you looked up at the podium, who was President Trump singling out? Who did Trump sign this agreement with? Well, it was with Turkey, with Qatar, with Egypt.
Yeah.
And so those are the likely ones to provide sort of a regional, shall we say, security. And again, if Hamas doesn't turn in its weapons and doesn't get amnesty, I can see a situation where all those countries are working together, maybe with Israeli intelligence, U.S. intelligence, overseen by the Board of Peace that President Trump is running.
One last question on this about the Board of Peace, and then I want to pivot to Zelensky in Ukraine. How important is the other people that President Trump had there in Egypt, this Board of Peace, and the financial interests who truly do finally seem committed to actually bringing some of their Arab money to the table, not for terrorist activity, but actually to build a civilization in these territories? Is that really going to happen, or are we being naive here that there's going to be a financial interest? And as soon as these countries do have a financial interest, maybe we can finally turn the page on the last 60 years of terrorism.
This was the brilliance of the 20-point peace plan, because not only did it drive a wedge between all those countries and Hamas, they're no longer supporting Hamas, but it drove a wedge between Hamas and the Palestinian people because of what you've just said. It's the day after plan. They're all going to invest. They're going to provide security. And so the Palestinian people, they can't wait to get rid of Hamas, right? Because they have a bright and rosy future as long as Hamas is gone. Will those countries step up with the money? Absolutely. They've already seen with the Abraham Accords the massive economic success of trade with Israel.
So they could, with credibility, they could walk in and say, "Listen, we've done this before, and look at the benefits. Let's just go. It's time for Gaza, West Bank, maybe, and maybe we'll actually see some progress." All right, quickly, I keep saying next week Zelensky's because time is moving so fast right now, Katie. It's tomorrow. Tomorrow, Volodymyr Zelensky will be coming here. This is after it appears as though President Trump has lost patience with Putin and the Russians because of broken promises and failed progress. And this comes at a moment where President Trump has never had more clout and credibility and gravitas on the world stage. So what happens now with Ukraine?
Now, the great thing about Trump is he's very good at using carrot and stick at the same time. So what happened in Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh is that if you're Vladimir Putin, you're looking and thinking, whoa, where am I in all this? I thought I was a player in the Middle East. I'm a nobody. And so how does he get back on the global stage as an important leader? Well, there's only one route, and that's the route with President Trump. I think what will happen is Zelensky will make the case, I want Tomahawk missiles, I want intelligence. I'm willing to share drone technology, which Ukraine has developed. Part of the deal is going to be U.S. isn't going to pay. Remember, we're not paying in the Middle East. We're not going to pay in Europe. We're America first, so it's got to be the NATO countries who step up to pay. Another thing two of them will talk about is how do they pressure the NATO countries who are still buying oil and gas from Russia, crazy as that seems. How do we put pressure on them to cut that and maybe buy American oil and gas instead? But how do we get Europe lined up? So there are three things Trump's got to do. He's got to line up the Ukraine, and it looks like he's gotten that pretty well. The second thing he's got to do is line up the Europeans. Yep, they're paying more for weapons that they're giving. They're footing the bill for Ukraine. But they've got to get off oil and gas that they're paying to Russia. And the final part of the piece is Putin. And Trump will use carrots and sticks. The stick is the Tomahawk missiles and the weapons. The stick is a threat of massive economic sanctions against Russia. And then the carrot is good relations with the world. The war is over. You get to keep some of Ukraine. But you have a relationship with the most powerful man in the world going forward.
I love how you laid all of that out. But seeing the news of India agreeing to no longer get their oil from Russia, is that enough for a pressure point for Putin, or does it have to be everybody who pulls out? I mean, what's going to force them to bend? Mm-hmm.
That's a great question, and I think that the India part of it was really important. Mm-hmm. And I think it was not by accident that the Pakistani leader was able to speak at the Sharm el-Sheikh meeting, right? India's mortal enemy. So all of a sudden, President Trump, is he nodding to Pakistan? Maybe India needs to get back into the good graces of Donald Trump. So yeah, that's really critical. But what about the others? You know, the money that the Europeans are spending to enrich Russia, in the greater scheme of things, it's nothing compared to what China's doing, but it's symbolic and it's important. So, you know, when is Russia going to feel the squeeze? Well, China will buy up all the extra oil. We know that. But the trade war with China is yet to come. And I think one of the things I'm watching is how quickly are we building U.S. rare earth mineral capabilities? How quickly are we replacing China in the essential supply chain of what we need? Because once we get there, then the trade war is one that we can win and win pretty significantly. So there are a lot of moving parts. You know, as Larry said, time is coming at us really fast, one thing after another.
It is, and Trump seems to have a good handle on it. For crying out loud, he got Hamas and the Israelis to agree to a deal, and both sides acted like they had won. Now it looks like he's about to make a power move with Ukraine and Russia. In all the meantime, he's got the China thing going on in the background. It's almost like the failure of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to reach a deal with Trump. It's kind of their fault, not Trump's fault. It's like Trump can get the Hamas to the table, but he can't get Chuck Schumer to just keep the government funded. Who's at fault here?
Look, Trump is playing 3- and 5-dimensional chess. These other guys, they haven't even figured out where the checkerboard is. With Chuck Schumer, I mean, look, what is the Democratic Party? I mean, if you look at it, if we were watching this in a made-for-TV series, we would be laughing. Because the Democrats, who do they have? They have a bunch of 80-year-old old guys who, can't figure out some new way to do business. And then we've got a lot of really crazy young ones, including the person who's probably going to become mayor of my city, New York. They have nothing. And then what do the Republicans have? Success after success after success.
KT,
with 30 great leaders.
It's time to move on to New York. I think it's finally time. You know what? I can find you some nice waterfront property in Annapolis. I know how much you would love that. Go Navy.
Feed Army.
Thank you,
Real
Katie.
soon.